the last one?
This one, we're talking about to be or not to be today.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I'm thinking about that.
We talked about the story of the hour last week.
Oh, okay. All right, got you.
I'll tell you, I found it a little bit difficult to annotate, not because it was bland, but because it was so detailed that there wasn't really much that we had to like dive into. Like I did, like, because you and I talked last week about how to do it on a with highlighting like different parts of it and color coding. So I did that, but it was kind of hard to like give your own opinion on it because the story was so laid out that you could tell what was going on. It wasn't like you had to like read between the lines really much.
Yeah. And I can see part of that too. So you can see on my annotations, like I went through kind of the first time and just did some reactions or some questions, which you can do as you're annotating yours. So you see, I marked to be or not to be as an allusion. Do you guys know that that monologue from Hamlet?
Yeah. I think so.
So it's a really famous monologue. I'm not thinking that you have it memorized, but you've probably heard it, to be or not to be, that's the question. Whether 'tis nobler to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or by taking up arms into them. So the idea is Hamlet is trying to decide whether he wants to live or not. Like basically, is it better to die and not have to deal with all of life? Or is it better to like actually do something about it? So you kind of know from the title right off, we're probably going to be talking about life and death, right? And then, so as I was going through, I just kind of marked things that came to me. Like if it says there's no prisons and no slums and no insane asylums, which we don't call them that anymore. This was written in the 50s, but no mental hospitals, then where are all these people, because it's not like people are going to stop committing crimes, and it's not like people are going to stop having struggles with mental illness. So why are there none of these people? Like that's one of the first questions, And now that you've read the story, what do you suppose, where are all these people?
Dead.
Why do you suppose they're dead, Haley?
Because they're chasing this image of perfection and this like very closed in world that they don't if somebody's like that, they don't want people to start thinking that that's part of this world. Like,
right. Yeah. So basically anyone who's not young and healthy and mentally fit in whatever like way that they describe it, they're dead. And assumingly if you commit crimes, you're dead. And if you're poor, you're dead.
Yeah.
I guess that's one way to get rid of these problems. Maybe not the best way. So as we go on in the story, we notice that this guy who's in the waiting room is 56 years old. Do you guys know very many people who are having their first child at 56?
No.
Mm-mm.
Hello?
Janet Jackson.
Janet Jackson, her first child at 56, really?
She was in her 50s, but it was like it was either her or Halle Berry, one of those. They had like their first kid in their 50s.
Yeah.
Hello?
Hey, is that Armand?
Yes, sorry I'm late.
It's okay. We can hear you. We can't see you, though. Can you see us?
I don't have a camera, so you won't be able to see me.
Okay. That's fine.
I can see you guys, and I can definitely see your screen share.
Cool.
Honestly, I wish schools would do this on Discord or something, where it's much easier to run that.
Well, I just used the tools I have.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, so I just remarked that it's unusual for someone to have their first child when they're 56. And then if we read this paragraph about the father's demeanor, young Whaling, they called him young, he's 56. Young Whaling was hunched in his chair, his head in his hands. He was so rumpled, so still, and colorless as to be virtually invisible. His camouflage was perfect since the waiting room had a disorderly and demoralized air, too. So, do you guys find anything strange about this description of somebody who's waiting for their children to be born?
It's very kind of negative and not there, and it kind of seems to be like a underlying tone of like nerves, and it's not like as much of a celebratory as that we would consider it.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it says even the waiting room is disorderly and demoralized, and which is strange because usually when people are waiting to have their children like brought out and like, look, here's your new baby. Sure, they're nervous, but not demoralized. Like demoralized is, that's depressed. That's like you don't have like there's no sense of excitement at all, right? And then we see this guy who's 200 years old who's painting a mural. And here is a little bit of symbolism, Haley. The mural he was working on depicted a very neat garden. Men and women in white, doctors and nurses turned soil, planted seedlings, sprayed bugs, and spread fertilizer. Men and women in purple uniforms pulled up weeds, cut down plants that were old and sickly, raked leaves, carried refuge in trash burners. So what metaphor do you see that is being set up by the author here?
It was like, I thought of it as like, in a way, you had to kill someone in order to bring someone into the population. That was my mindset. So they were basically saying they were pulling up weeds in order to like plant new plants.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly
that.
So you have the doctors who take care of the babies are in white, and then the doctors who are in purple are the ones who anesthetize or euthanize people who are done living, right? So that kind of sets up the dynamic for the world. And then we have this little song here. If you don't like my kisses, honey, here's what I'll do. I'll go see a girl in purple. So we've set up that color as being a person who helps people commit suicide. Kiss this sad world, toodaloo. If you don't want my lovin', why should I take up this space? I'll get off this old planet and let some sweet baby have my place. Okay. So again, setting up the idea that for a baby to be born, somebody has to die. So they have made the population stop growing. It's a set number, and you can't have any more people. I highlighted the Happy Garden of Life, which is the name of the mural, because that sounded like a test question to me, right? What's the name of the mural in To Be or Not to Be? Seems like something a teacher would pick out. I don't know. And then I also highlighted the Federal Bureau of Termination, which is the name of the office that helps people commit suicide, right? Also seems like something that could be important. So our painter, what does the painter think about the mural that he's painting?
He keeps looking at it. He's like, at the end, like I think the like last few sentences in the story, it was like he was kind of confused about it.
Okay. So he feels confused. Of course, he has witnessed something pretty awful, which we haven't gotten to quite yet. What else? What else did you guys see? What did he think about this?
There's this image of perfection that he knows that they can't reach, and so he like it's almost like taunting him because it's fake and he doesn't like it.
Right. Yeah, so he hates painting it. He didn't choose it, paying him to paint it. And what does he say is more real, true, artistic than this mural that he's painting?
His like wipes or whatever they drop cloths.
Yeah, so the drop cloth, you know, that's like the fabric that's on the ground that catches all the paint that falls. And he says that's more realistic. So if you think of that, that's like spattered with paint. It would be very colorful. It'd be very chaotic. And he's saying that's more true to life. And it makes me think of Jackson Pollock. Have you guys ever seen like a Jackson Pollock painting? It looks like this.
Oh, I used to make those in middle school because I got really bored. Like I just get like a paintbrush and just like do that.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, a lot of schools, like Caleb did them in kindergarten, they'll have students do impressions of Jackson Pollock. And Jackson Pollock was a contemporary of the writer, so that this painting is from the same time period. So the painter in the story is saying that this is more like real life than the mural of Robin and the people all perfect, right? So you guys figured out, like, we have to have people die for the babies to be born. How many babies are there?
Too many.
How many is Mr. Whaling expecting, though?
Triplets.
Triplets. He's expecting 3 babies. Right? So how does he solve his problem?
He shoots himself, the doctor, and the painter.
He kills 2 people and then kills himself.
Yes, he kills 2 people, and you've got the doctor is right, and himself. But
oh, was she like a receptionist or something? I can't remember who she was.
So she's one of the purple doctors who anesthetizes people when they're about to die. So he killed one doctor that was the obstetrician, so one that delivers babies, and he killed one that kills people, and he killed himself to make room for the triplets, right? I also highlighted grapes on Judgment Day, which is a biblical allusion. The reference to Judgment Day gives you the idea of death and the afterlife. And that the symbol of the Federal Bureau of Termination is an eagle perched on a turnstile. So again, it's like the idea of going into somewhere else or into another section, another place, because a turnstile, you know, that's where you cross through to go somewhere else. All right. What else? Oh, an allusion to a Greek god, Zeus. So I know Armand definitely knows, and you guys probably do too. Who's the Greek god Zeus?
Who?
Zeus.
What about him?
God of
Oh, I
lightning.
thought he was
Thunder.
lightning.
Yeah, lightning. That's right. God of lightning. And he's like the head god. He's like the god of the gods, the biggest god.
Like the big three, right?
King of
One
the
of the two.
gods.
The king of the gods. Not in the Christian faith. That this is in Greek mythology. So he's the all-powerful, and he's being compared to Dr. Hitz, who's the person who actually set up this system of no person can live if a person doesn't die. And Dr. Hitz is described as being 7 feet tall, right? And he's like 240 years old. So they made him all-powerful, barely human person. But he ends up dead anyway, so. We had some irony where we called the father the happy father to be. That's ironic. He's obviously not happy, right? Did you guys see what they predicted we would be eating and how we would be living in the year 2000, which we're 20 years past now? No?
Seaweed.
Eating seaweed, right? Where supposedly there's not enough drinking water to go around and there's nothing to eat but seaweed in the year 2000. And people still insisted on their right to reproduce. So I don't know about you guys. I've been eating seaweed lately unless it's wrapped around some sushi. And I definitely have some water. It's fortunate we're not quite to where we're predicting. All right. So why do you think that the painter finally decided after all of this to call the phone number?
Because he kind of just was didn't want to keep being in this world that he knew wasn't right.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, he did just witness a murder-suicide, right? And the father was cornered into it because he didn't want to kill any of his children. And he, like, the comment was made in the story that if he couldn't find people to volunteer to die, then they were going to kill the babies. So it's like either way, somebody's going to die. Right?
Yeah.
All right. So what do you guys think? What's the conflict in this story? The type of conflict?
Person versus society.
Yeah. Person versus society. I agree.
Good versus evil.
Good versus evil? Which side do you think is which, in your opinion?
Society is evil.
Ah, the society is evil and the person is good, even though he killed 3 people, including himself. I mean, I definitely think it's person versus society because
He probably wouldn't have killed those people if they were going to let the kids live.
Yeah. Okay. So then what about, do you think there's person versus self? 2. Because the dad is trying to decide what to do, and also the painter is trying to decide like what he wants to do. What about themes? What kind of theme do you think this story has? Remember the
Dystopian.
Oh, it's definitely dystopian, absolutely. And that's the genre. So it's a dystopian genre. A theme is like, what is the author trying to say? What is the author's like point? What are they trying to communicate about life or a truth about life?
That there's more than the perfection, that you don't always know what's going on behind the scenes, and not everything is going to be perfect.
Right. Yeah, I agree. So, maybe the theme is like, life's not perfect and it shouldn't be. Or we should expect it to be, right? Or maybe life will never be perfect.
Perfection does not exist.
Perfection does not exist. Yeah, I agree. Because a lot of times, we say that a dystopia is somebody's idea of utopia that has gone wrong. So like that's exactly what this story is. It's the idea of a utopia. Everybody lives as long as they want to. They have everything they need. But the cost of it is too high. And that's what makes it dystopic. Because it's the cost of individual freedom, really.
Usually it's one of the rights.
Mm-hmm.
One or more rights are lost.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is really like a consideration of what are you willing to give up to achieve what appears to be utopic. Yeah. And that's basically it, y'all. Do you have any other questions about this story or about the playwright? Or not playwright, because it's not a play, the author? No. And I hope you saw there was biographical information about him that you could watch on the slideshow in the Google Stream. And you've got the activity to do. And so the activity for this story will be averaged with the one from the first story for your first quiz grade. And then we'll have 2 more short stories coming up. But if you don't have any, yes, Haley?
How will tests and quizzes be done for this? Like, I know there's the quiz for these 2 assignments will be averaged as the quiz. What else will be done?
So you'll basically have 2 quiz grades out of this unit, which will be the 4 projects, right? So 2 will be one quiz, 2 will be the other.
Okay.
Long and prosper. And then there'll be a formative assessment of the 4 short stories together a summative assessment of 4 short stories together at the end of the unit.
Okay.
And then that's only going to leave us like a week left of the school year, and we're going to talk about the Harlem Renaissance in that week, and that'll pretty much wrap us up.
I still can't seem to. It won't let the Google Classroom will not let still not letting me post the bookmarks that I made for the previous one.
Yeah, why don't you stay on with me, Armand, and let's see if we can figure that out after everybody checks out, which is, I think, will be pretty soon here because we're pretty much done.
Because I even tried to make it a Word document thing, and it still didn't work.
Right. Well, thank you guys for coming to discuss this story, and I hope to see you next Wednesday for our next short story. Rosemar, thank you for joining us. Can't see you, but I hope you're doing well. Josh, it's good to see you, and Haley, I'll see you next week.
Yeah.
All right.